So tens of thousands of people in the United States die each year from influenza, yet at the filming of this, only 11 Americans have died from the new coronavirus COVID-19. So why are we making coronavirus such a big deal? I heard that men are twice as likely to die from coronavirus than women. Is that true? The United States, very low number compared to other parts of the world. That means we're doing something right? For the answer to those questions and more, stay tuned. But first, if you're new here, please consider subscribing and click the bell notification so that you won't miss anything. So millions of people are infected each year with influenza, and yet we're making such a big deal about this new novel coronavirus, COVID-19. So what gives? Well, we know a lot about influenza because it's back every year. It's a seasonal infection, and we know exactly what to expect. It has a mortality rate of 0.1%. Coronavirus, as it stands, is being listed by the World Health Organization with a mortality rate of 3.4%. 3.4% is a lot higher than 0.1%. You might like your odds, but those odds aren't the same for everybody. And if you span those statistics out over an entire population, you're looking at huge numbers. So, for instance, 12 to 61,000 deaths a year in the United States from influenza is a pretty big number. But if the entire population of the United States caught coronavirus, we'd be looking at about 11 million deaths. 11 million deaths is significantly higher than 12,000 to 61,000. So we're talking thousands versus millions. So that's part of the big deal. The other big deal is we know that influenza will fade away in the summer months. And so we get that respite and we have a flu vaccine and we can prepare. With coronavirus, it's brand new. We don't know what it's going to do in the summer months. It may continue to spread in the summer months. We just don't know. We hope not. We really hope not, but we don't know. And then if you look at the worldwide population, if the whole world were to contract coronavirus, which we don't expect them to, but if they should, we're looking at hundreds of millions of deaths. So at the very least, 250 million deaths. That's a lot of deaths, and there is a comparison being drawn to the 1918 Spanish flu because the mortality rate is in the same ballpark right now. In the 1918 flu, that killed an estimated 50 to 100 million people. Difference that we're seeing right now, and there are going to be a lot of differences in retrospect, but for now, what the obvious difference is that COVID-19 is attacking people with compromised immune systems mostly, but not entirely. People with cardiovascular disease, people with high blood pressure, people with cancer, people with diabetes, people over 60, 70, the older you get, the higher chances of mortality are. If you're young and healthy and don't have underlying conditions, but how many of us don't have an underlying condition? Another thing that makes the new coronavirus COVID-19 a big deal is that it appears to have already mutated into two separate strains. One strain may be more virulent than the other. There's been a preliminary study coming out of China, but we need a lot more data on this. This is all very new information and we're still struggling to learn more. So as far as will more men die from coronavirus than women? So the early statistics coming out are men are not quite twice as likely to die from coronavirus than women. But the cause and effect of this is not clear. It could be something as simple as men wait longer to seek medical care, so therefore the ones that are actually going in to be tested and treated are at death's door. So it'll be interesting to find more information out on that as time progresses. So the 3.4% mortality rate coming out of the World Health Organization, why you can't really trust those numbers. So those numbers are figured on how many people die based on how many confirmed cases there are. So if we're only testing people who are really sick, then it would stand to reason that the mortality rate would be higher. If we're only testing people for COVID-19 in an ICU of people on ventilators, then I would expect the death rate to be pretty high. If we're testing the general public, doing a blind sweep of people for COVID-19 and catching a lot of people that are asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms or low symptoms, and I would expect that death rate, mortality rate to go way down. Right now it's 3.4%, and I think that's because of the lack of testing. And speaking of lack of testing, so the United States only has 11 deaths right now as of March 5th, 2020, and something like 100 cases. This is ever changing, so as soon as I say it, it's probably changed. Does that mean we're doing something right? Those case numbers are really low. That means we're low risk, right? That means as a country, we're doing something right? Well, maybe not. If you only test 10 people, you can't really brag about only having one positive case. As of March 2nd, we tested something like 457 people in America. That is such a crazy low number of people to have tested. Now those numbers are starting to go up, but they're still really, really low compared to places like South Korea. So China has this enormous number of confirmed cases of coronavirus, partly, of course, because that seems to be where it originated from, but also because they're doing massive amounts of testing. South Korea has very large numbers of confirmed cases, but they are also doing large amounts of testing. At the same date, March 2nd, they had performed over 100,000 tests for the coronavirus. We had done like under 500. So I wouldn't expect our numbers to be very high. Now, in the coming weeks, as we finally get it together and start testing people at a rate we should be testing people to try and slow down the progress of this disease, I would expect our numbers to go way up. It does not mean it's not been here all along. It's been here. We're just now finally getting testing. And so as we test more people, expect our numbers to go up, expect us in the United States to be a hot zone. The good news about that is also expect the mortality rate worldwide to start going down because more people are being tested that aren't hopefully just the sickest of the sick. And so that will let the mortality rate go down. So you have places like Iran throwing out these kind of suspect numbers of high death rates with low case numbers. And maybe they really do have a much higher mortality rate. That's possible. It could be a different strain that is just more virulent. It could be that their healthcare system isn't able to handle this volume, or they may not have what they need to care for these people. But it could also mean underreporting, under testing, and that they're only counting the people that are dying. If they're not testing properly, it could also be another virus that is in the mix, like MERS, another coronavirus. So it might be they have more than one disease process going on. It's just hard to know. The World Health Organization is apparently there or on their way there, so hopefully they'll help them sort things out. 3.4% mortality rate, if that does hold true after all the testing catches up, it doesn't mean that you have a 3 in 100 chance of dying from the coronavirus should you get it. If you are young and healthy, you have a very low chance of getting very sick from this disease, but it's still much higher than influenza. 0.2% is still very low. If you are over the age of 60, your chances start going way up. And if you are over the age of 80, or have underlying health diseases, and some of the underlying health diseases are not as extreme as you would think. So if you have high blood pressure, 6 to 8%, diabetes, 7 to 9%, underlying respiratory disease, which might just mean asthma or could be COPD or something more serious, 6 to 8%, cancer, 5 to 8%. So, and if you're over the age of 80, you have like a 15% mortality rate. So if you're very young, it's still twice the mortality rate of influenza. If you're old, it's very high, and you need to take this serious, and you need to be careful, and you need to ask people that are coughing or have cold-like symptoms, because we don't know, is it the cold or is it corona? We don't know, and we're not going to be testing everybody who has a sniffle. So it is up to you and up to people that you love to protect yourself. So, wash your hands, just like we've been telling you a million times. Use hand sanitizer, stay away from crowds until this blows over. That's not a bad idea. So that's all I have for you today. If you got anything out of this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything, and it is very helpful to me. So be sure to check out some of my other videos on the coronavirus, and stay healthy. Thanks for watching. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.